you need to design your team culture. Hi, I'm Josh. This is Emily. Welcome to Win From Within, the complete coaching guide for softball coaches. In this video, we're going to talk about how to take a step back and redesign your culture, your team culture from the ground up. So if you have tension with parents, if you have unmotivated athletes, if your team just struggles to win, or if you just generally don't have a fun time coaching your team and it's stressful, this is the foundation of solving that problem, is culture. So Emily, do you want to take it away?
Sure. So our Win From Within program has 6 different areas, from culture to skills and fundamentals to mental skills. And all these areas are not, they're not separated from each other, so they're all intertwined. So when we think about culture, a lot of us think, well, my culture's fine, it's not hostile. But having a good culture is a lot broader than not being hostile or being hostile. A bad culture is you without a clear vision of your role and not having time for your main responsibility, which for a lot of us is player development. So your culture starts with you, and you need to think about 3 different questions. Just to kind of set the framework for what you want your team culture to be. Number 1, what is your strengths and weaknesses as a coach? Where are you spending most of your time, and where do you want to spend most of your time? And these are really important to evaluate because the rest of your team is going to kind of operate around this sphere of how you define your role as a coach. So after you define your role as a coach, the other thing that you have to do is, so step 1 is kind of designing your culture. And this comes with 4 different challenges. The first challenge is developing life skills. When I talk about life skills, I'm not talking about the 15 things it takes to be a good person, but I'm talking about the 3 specific things you want your girls to learn from you over the course of this year. And these things might vary. So if you're coaching a 10-under team, it might be different than if you're coaching an 18-under team. But know what they are, write them down, and your culture kind of hinges on those 3 things. So we, in our program, have a list of things that coaches have used and have had success with at different age groups. So the other thing that you need to do is you need to provide a roadmap, because what you do as a coach is you define success for your team. And so you need a roadmap of where you're going and what success looks like for your team this year. And you need to be clear, upfront, and honest. There can be a lot of different, even within great teams and great environments, there can be a lot of different goals that each team has. After you define your roadmap, you need to think about different roles. And these are things that you need to lay out before you even have your first team meeting.
Yeah, and this ties back to this idea of strengths and weaknesses. So you need to have a clear idea of how you want to operate in your area of greatest strengths from the beginning of the season. And then in areas where you're weak, you need to be honest about that and say, I need to find somebody that I can delegate this to. And this is where your roles come in.
Yeah, so an example of this is on my team, I didn't want to do a lot of administrative stuff. I wanted to spend my time on the field coaching my girls. And so I came up with a list of all the administrative tasks that I needed my parents and assistant coaches to fill in with to free me up to spend my time on the field with my girls. Not only do you need to have the list of roles, and you need to be clear with your assistant coaches about what their responsibilities are as well. But if you link those with resources and have a plan of communication, you set yourself up for success with delegation. So a lot of our coaches tell us, oh, when I delegate, I end up doing all the work anyways. There are keys to being successful with delegation, and one of them is having a system and a plan for how these roles are going to operate.
Yeah, and within our program, that is a huge and useful resource. So we have compiled a list of roles that many coaches have told us have been helpful for them, have freed up their time. And so we give that to you inside the program. So we have lists of roles, the responsibilities that go with those roles, and even tools that you can give to those people that you delegate that task to help them be successful. And so that's part of our coaching toolkit inside of Win From Within. You can take that and use that to help you delegate.
So then the fourth challenge with designing your culture is establishing rules. And this is really important that you have 7 to 10 rules. You don't want to have 15. It's way too many. You can't remember what your rules are. But with these rules, they're going to hinge on your life skills. So a really basic example was I coached 12 and under softball. The girls didn't drive to my fields. But I wanted to encourage personal responsibility. So I had a rule, you have to be on time, and if you're not on time, you need to let me know ahead of time. You can text or call before the time you're supposed to be there. Otherwise, there were certain consequences. And so what that did was that encouraged one of my 3 life skills was personal responsibility. So these rules all hinged on the 3 life skills that I wanted to encourage with my team that year. So this is a really basic example. We have a list of rules of just things that coaches have found to be successful. And again, nobody can design your team culture because it's based on the environment that you want to build within your team structure. But there is a step-by-step guide that you can follow that has proven to be successful designing a good culture. So after you design your culture, the next step that you need to do is you need to communicate your culture. And this happens at different points. But there's 3 really important instances to communicate your culture. Number 1, when you offer a girl a spot on your team, you need to communicate what your responsibility is going to be for her development. You need to also communicate what your expectation is of that girl on your team, both generally and specifically. This just kind of sets the premise so that everybody's on the same page. You don't want to communicate, you don't want to take a picture and have no expectation of pitching her during the course of the year. Otherwise, you're going to have tension and you're going to have parent conflicts because your culture wasn't set up in a way that was clear with what you were committing to her for. Step 3 is practicing your team culture. And we have a lot of people who have a lot of good resources for how to practice your team culture. But the big thing here is that you have to have a plan. And you need to be consistent with it. So there's different things from goal setting to note cards and a lot of different book resources that coaches that we have talked about in our program that have been helpful for coaches to help think about how do I practice this culture. We spend a lot of time practicing skills and drills. And if you do not practice and enforce your team culture, your play on the field will be limited because you're not going to be working as a cohesive unit.
That's right. You know, the best coaches that we work with and learn from, they have found ways to integrate practicing their culture into every aspect of their team, both on the field, traveling, at home. They live and breathe their culture in everything that they do. And if you want ideas about how to do that, we have step-by-step guides for that inside the program.
So, thinking for you in terms of global culture, culture's never a one and done thing. It's not like, okay, you set your culture at the beginning, all right, culture's done. It's something that you have to continually water and grow. And it changes over the course of the year, between different years, because we change as people. So what part of culture, so just kind of feeding into this question, what part of culture do you need to go back and reestablish, redefine, or recreate? And how do you make your team better? Maybe you need to think about the life skills. Maybe you need to be more clear about your roadmap. Maybe you need to come up with a list of roles to free you up so that you can operate in your area of strength. Maybe you need to have ideas for practicing your culture, or how do you communicate your culture with your girls? And again, these are all things that are within our Win From Within program. Nobody can design your culture for you. But what I do know is that there are keys and steps for designing a successful culture, and it can save you a ton of time because all of these things are already developed for you. So there's a step-by-step approach. You can take it, integrate it into the environment that you want to have to help you lay the foundation to help you be a successful coach and have a successful team. And more than anything, just to have the greatest impact on your girls.
Yeah, so I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope this gives you some good takeaways to think about your culture and how to improve it and make it better this year and create a better experience for yourself and for your players. If you want the resources and the step-by-step guide, that's all inside of our Win From Within coaching program. Enrollment is open right now, but it will close on the 15th. So if you want to go enroll now, and we hope to see you inside. Thanks.